Give you a quick little news. We cover the NXT Premium Live event that just happened. And a couple little, I'm not gonna say much details about the matches that happened. But we'll just, be very quick. Let's see how fast we can get this done. Thanks for listening. Not So Creative Podcast. All right. I think if you heard that sound, that was my knee like popping. All right. Let's start. So NXT had Vengeance Premium Live event, which was in Tennessee. And the matches, we'll start with the first one. It was the Dusty Rhodes Cup final, which was between Braun Breaker, Baron Corbin. Well, the nickname they call themselves is the Wolf Dogs, versus Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams. Now, Trick Williams was about to be headed for a tough night. He was doing double duty today because he was main eventing and also fighting for the NXT World title against Dragunov. So it made sense to have this match be the first one because he was going to be the last match anyway. Now, whatever unfolded in the beginning, there's no way to predict what was going to happen for him at the end. The tag team match was a fun match to watch. It was good. The crowd was into it. It's always good when you watch a show and the crowd's into it. It just makes the show so much better to watch. Whether it's a big arena, small arena, it's just always much better to watch and enjoy because then you get into it, And sometimes, we may be into it and the crowd could just be, looking for something out of the world. Now, there was a couple of spots that were just, I'll say scary. So last week when Braun Breaker debuted at the Royal Rumble, as far as his first ever Royal Rumble, the commentators were talking about his speed and how his speed is coming off the ropes. Now, this guy goes at all velocity when he's running to the ropes, coming off the ropes, which helps out with the explosiveness. Now, he ran. I'm not sure if the ropes were loose. They weren't normal, like normally as tight as they are. He almost clotheslined himself, because his head went under the top rope and got caught. It was scary because he got caught. And you see, wow, it was obvious when you see this. If you get a chance and you have the Peacock app, Peacock Network, check it out. It was pretty scary. And then I believe with that, he had a bruise on his face. I'm not sure if the rope scratched his face or whatever the case was, around his nose there. He had a bruise and there was like a cut there. And then there was a comment. I think there was a commentator by, I think it was Wade Barrett, who is such an underrated commentator for wrestling. And he made a comment about, something up with these ropes. Like, these ropes are not the ropes that I'm accustomed to seeing. Because there were other, I believe, like Carmelo Hayes was doing a springboard and didn't give him the lift. Not sure if it looks like maybe they fixed it later on. Not sure. But something was not right with the ropes. Anyway, match was fun. It's a good match. I'm not going to give the details because, well, one, I'm not going to write the details of the match. I'm going to enjoy it for the moment. I'll take the little notes about who won and so on and so forth. Now, Carmelo did save Trick Williams during the match from a spear. And Trick was like, hey, I think that was afterwards, because they did lose the match. They didn't win the cup. The Wolf Dogs won the cup, which is, again, Braun Breaker and Baron Corbin. And, later on, Trick Williams said, hey, why'd you take it? He's like, hey, you need to reserve. You were bleeding out your mouth already. This is what Carmelo Hayes responds to Trick Williams, and says, hey, you're bleeding out your mouth. You need to preserve yourself for your final match. You still have another match coming up tonight, and you need to, to win this. And of course, I'm on your side. Don't forget, Trick Mello all the way, which we'll slowly get into later on. And it'll be brief anyway. So Braun and Baron win, and they're the number one contenders for the NXT tag team titles now. And that was the first match. Second match was Joe Gacy against Dijak, which is a no DQ. Like I said, I'm not going to go into details. I'm just going to just give the results. Maybe some details. That was a fun match to watch. Dijak won. Yeah, you have to watch this match if you don't get a chance, but you have to watch it. Joe Gacy is a character. I'll say that much. At the end of the match, there was a smile. Even though he was laid out smiling, almost like Joker-esque in a way, if you know what I mean. The Joker, no matter what, is always smiling. It was kind of like that. I think it would have been great if they did something along those lines to paint his face with the permanent smile or something like that. Because it was funny. Of course, the commentators pointed out, like, this guy's still smiling, and he's out cold, but he's smiling. And even Dijak looked, and he was like, just, what is up with you? How is this guy smiling after all this? Out cold. Third match was the D'Angelo family versus, OTM. And the D'Angelo family won. It was what it was. It was a good match, but it was a mixed tag match. That was the third match. The fourth match was actually pretty good, which was Roxanne Perez versus Lyra Valkyria. That was a great match. And then the Lola Vice came out and cashed out on her contract. And it turned into a three-way match. And that was good because there was some close calls. I actually thought that Lola was going to win. I'm thinking usually when you cash it in, you're in your favor. Only thing I would say about Lola was like maybe if they were both out cold, that would have been a great moment. But, Lola came to fight apparently because she did it right in the middle of the match and ladies weren't knocked out. And that was a good point also by the commentator saying that, that she could have waited, which is true. And Valkyria retained, and she pinned Lola. So, the breakout star, that was the contract that she won for being the breakout star. Speaking of Lola Vice. And unfortunately, she, lost her chance because she obviously cashed in. Kind of like Money in the Bank in a way, but this is the breakout star for the NXT. That was the fourth match. The fifth match was Oba Femi, which is the NXT North American champion, against Dragon Lee. Good match. Oba Femi retained when it comes to that. And the sixth and final match was Dragunov against Trick Williams. Good match. Exciting match. Crowd was into it. Crowd was heavily favoring Trick Williams. They want to see him, win the title. the NXT, heavyweight title. With, I didn't know what to, usually you put in your mind like, oh, who's going to win? What direction are they going in? What's going to happen? Of course, in the corner of Trick was Carmelo Hayes, number one supporter, and so on and so forth. In the back of the mind, for a couple of months now, we've thought that. Remember, there was that moment when Trick was attacked, before that match to qualify for that pay-per-view, that premium live event again, which was that 25-minute Iron Survivor match. And that winner at that time was going to be the one that wasn't going to get the shot against Dragunov. And he was attacked, and there was a whole mystery, where Lexis King was the one, and then Lexis King said, oh no, I'm not the one. The one that really did it was Carmelo. And they kind of teased it a little bit there. And then it kind of went off. They were tag teaming. They made the finals. Again, fast forward now. Obviously, they didn't win. Carmelo Hayes is in the corner. And the match is going. And there's a couple of moments. I'm going to go into this match a little bit. A couple of moments where it's like, you're thinking, is this the one where he turned on him? Or is he really staying loyal? Is he really, pulling for his friend, Trick? And there was a moment where, where Trick was outside and Dragunov was outside, and then Carmelo got in his face. And then I guess there was a push. I can't exactly remember. And he basically clipped Williams in the knee, but there was obviously accidental because it was caused by Dragunov. Either way, Trick Williams, there were moments where you're like, oh, this match is over with the, Dragunov's finishes, and Trick Williams kept on kicking out. At that point, the crowd was thinking, oh, this is really going to happen. Now you could tell, just by the reactions, the whole place was, cheering for Trick. And a couple of finishes. Then the referee got knocked out. Trick did hit him. The whole crowd's counting to 10. No referee. Finally, referee comes down, starts counting, and of course, Dragunov kicks out. At this moment, Carmelo and the referee are out cold outside. Eventually, there was a moment at the end where both of them were up. They ran at each other, and Dragunov landed first with his finishing move. And Trick lost. Now, the event was good. And then what I expected to happen happened, which was Carmelo turning on Trick. But it was, before that happened, Carmelo, gave him a hug and says, hey, don't worry, I got your back. We're, Trick Mello all the way. And then he clipped him in his knee, as Trick didn't see this. Then started giving him chair shots after chair shots after chair shots on his left knee, which is the one that he had clipped in accident. And now, we have this feud, which hopefully after this feud's over, Carmelo's moved up the roster, because I don't see what else he needs to do at this point when it comes to being here in the NXT, NXT. This is the only other rivalry I could see that could end up, story for him, and then that's basically it. It would be nice, once that's over, if Trick gets, a shot again at the belt and wins it, then he eventually can move up. But it was almost, for a moment, you would think that Carmelo was not turning on him. I was waiting the whole time. I just go back and say, Trick Williams wanted to do this on his own. You don't have to be in his corner to cheer him on. He has it. He got this. He doesn't need you. So, of course, those moments, of course, a true friend, yeah, sure, hey, whatever. But the whole time when Trick was, making, all these moves and leading up to getting the shot, the title, then unfortunately Dragunov got hurt. Pay-per-view was pushed back. I was thinking, I was like, all right, finally, this is the time where they're going to, break these guys apart. And it happened. A little prolonged, but hey, it's WrestleMania season right now. So, with that, I guess it's the right time, because that most likely will be the match that, or at least one of the matches that Stand and Deliver, which we'll see if I'm able to make it to that. A lot of things have to fall into place. I don't know if I'll be able to do the podcast out from Philly. And I'll see what I can do. It should be a good weekend, because I would actually look forward more to going to WrestleMania versus the NXT. The NXT is more like an appetizer. I'm hoping I can make it for the two shows. Maybe if I'm lucky, either the Raw or SmackDown. Just make it a nice little weekend out of it. And after, after Thursday and after tomorrow, we'll see, about what is being put together. We already know The Rock and Roman is definitely happening. There's no way that's not going to happen. So that's that. Kind of already NXT Stand and Deliver. We could see Trick Williams facing Carmelo Hayes already in that event. They'll probably, tease that he's hurt. I mean, he did get a whole bunch of chair shots at the knee. And it would be only the right time for him to return in Stand and Deliver, which would make the most sense. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Braun. You have a number one contenders match, NXT, against, the D'Angelo family. Do they win and give Baron Corbin and Braun the belts? Funny thing is that the crowd doesn't hate him, and Braun is so over, regardless of whether he's a face or a heel. Because again, I said it before in a prior podcast, we all know who he is. We all know where he's coming from. So we know what he's about. His moves, explosiveness, how he gets it. His father, his uncle. Tomorrow he's supposedly going to be at Raw, where Adam Pearce is going to offer him a contract. Now, do you take it? Do you say, wait a second, you know what? I'll take a look and just kind of, make him guess a little bit between Nick Aldis and Adam Pearce, which is, Adam Pearce is the Raw GM. Nick Aldis is the SmackDown GM. He already offered him the contract. He has it in hand already. So, obviously he has that already. And then, of course, you have the Adam Pearce tomorrow. Competitive against each other. Trying to get the best, stars, and the stars, whatever, will choose which brand, which usually it is what it is. There's a draft anyway that happens. How does this work out? Are they exempt for the draft because they're signing with them currently, like right now? And then does Ava get involved? I mean, NXT has a couple of people for that were up in the other from Raw and SmackDown. You have Baron Corbin here and there, back and forth. You have the LWO. I don't see it as a bad thing if you go back and forth. Or does Braun play the role of, I'll show up wherever I want and I'll wrestle wherever I want, regardless, everybody benefits? Could he do all three? Unlikely, right? We just don't know where it's going. we already know he's going to go to the main roster. But at the same time, with the events of Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams not being together now, it only made sense to give the Wolf Dogs that victory. And the funny thing is, Braun Breaker and Baron Corbin were, at one point, had this, they were against each other. And they came together and said, hey, you know what? Let's team up. We can do some damage here. We can actually win this. And they did. Now they get the title shot. What if they win the NXT Tag Team belts? Now what? Or what if Braun says to either Adam Pearce or Nick Aldis and says, hey, I'm coming up here, but at the same time I have a title shot since I won. Well, actually me and Baron won the tournament. Does he stay loyal and says, hey, you know what? Unfinished business first and then I'll come around? Like I said, I would say wait. And then as you get close to WrestleMania, why not go after Gunther? Forget the whole Brock scenario. And I'm sorry I'm talking about Braun again. We already know what's happening with Trick Williams and Carmelo. That's a done deal. They're going to face off and stand deliver. And it has to happen. I mean, goodness. You're going to be putting your best pay-per-view WrestleMania weekend. You're going to have a good card. And that's going to be at least one of them. And that will be a fun match to watch. You want to put a good card, especially when you have the main roster having 2 nights straight of matches. So that's that. Then, yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. Do you go to SmackDown? Do you go to Raw? I'm leaning towards Raw because SmackDown has signed within who? They signed Naomi. They signed Tiffany Stratton. Who else was signed? Well, if you get a chance, leave comments. Let me know. I could be off a little bit. Raw signed Andrade. So it would only make sense that Braun is in Raw. Not looking at women versus men. I'm just looking at the count of the talent that you're signing. CM Punk will be back in 2-3 months anyway. 3 months? Which, unfortunately he missed. He's going to miss WrestleMania, but it is what it is. I'm just trying to think here. Am I missing someone else from, and I don't know, did they ever mention that they signed Tyler Bates to SmackDown? I mean, that's another one. Now they're the number one. They're the number one contenders. Him and Pete, the Bruiserweight, Pete Dunne. So we just show up and now we're part of SmackDown. Those are the little, unless I missed it, which is very possible. Can anybody let me know if this was really, did he get a contract presented to him? Or he's just in it. He just shows up and now he's in it. Don't get me wrong. I love Tyler Bates. I just think it's interesting that there'll be moments it's like, okay, one guy comes in, okay, now he's a part of it. And then the other guy's offered a contract. Those are the only things I wish to see as far as consistency. I don't care if the matches change, if the story changes. If we're going to start doing that, at least let's say, hey, Tyler, you know what? You've been smacked on a couple of weeks. Might as well just offer you the contract. Pete Dunne's been here already the whole time. And I think Butch ended up going to NXT for a moment and then came back, the whole Ridge Holland thing. I was thinking that was going to be like a little back and forth between them two. That just never happened. So I think it was a good thing anyway. It just wouldn't make sense after all that. Some of the wrestlers don't need these gimmicks. Just be who you are. That's who he was. He was always Pete Dunne, the Bruiserweight. Same moves, same everything. It's just Let him be the character he always was. You don't have to change. Especially when you're doing developmental, on the NXT and you're making it and you're learning all the things and you're good already. And he's been through the European, comes to the US, same thing. Then you go to the main roster and you change his name to Butch. We all know who he was. So, that's... So, yeah, so going back, to me, the real story now is, where does Braun go? Adam Pearce is going to offer him a contract, probably one that he won't be able to refuse, or he'll just make both him and Aldis wait, or he'll say, you know what, I'll show up. I'll let you guys know eventually. Hey, there's no rush. There's no rush here. He is going to probably have maybe 1 or 2 more matches at NXT, and then we'll see what happens. Either way, he went out on a high. Well, depends, because if they win the tag belts, then goodness, now he's a tag champion. Unless Adam Pearce says, hey, you just won the Dusty Cup, right? You want to sign? What if I give you a title shot, you and Baron against Judgment Day in WrestleMania? Which only makes sense because if anybody saw, Braun did mention something about Judgment Day, that he's going to come after them in like some digital exclusive on YouTube. It just only makes sense that he signs on Raw. But at the same time, the tag team champions can go to both Raw and SmackDown. So, again, it's going to be a fun couple of weeks. NXT's over. Carmelo Hayes betrayed his longtime friend. And we're going to see what happens going from there. We have Raw tomorrow. I'll try to cover that, the moments. And I appreciate you guys listening. Again, the Not So Creative Podcast. You can go on YouTube. Also, Google. My YouTube channel is E-24G ! You can make comments there. You can look for the episode, make a comment. Appreciate some of the feedback. And same as always, dedicate the show to friends, family, everyone out there. I hope you guys enjoy the pay-per-view if you didn't see it. And you do have Peacock, then go check it out. It was good. If you want to see something a little different, they're good. NXT's a good brand. Aside from that, I hope you guys have an excellent night. If you have questions, things like that, or even, moments I mess up, let me know. I appreciate it. And thanks for listening. We're going to go out again like this.